Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare.
Okay. All right, let's try this again. So, welcome once again to our Wednesday night teaching on the stages of the path, the meditations therein. And tonight we'll be unpacking a meditation on subtle impermanence. So, it's a really meaningful meditation, and there's so much benefit, just this particular one. Let's go ahead, pop it right up here. Feeling ambitious, like I can get through a lot. We'll see what happens though. If you look closely at and contemplate deeply the people and things that appear around you, you can see that all are in constant flux. Everything becomes the teacher of impermanence. So Buddhism explains two levels of impermanence, coarse and subtle. Coarse impermanence is visible to our senses. A person dies, a house burns down, a glass smashes into tiny fragments. Right? We all see that, right? Glass has suddenly changed. Subtle impermanence refers to the changes taking place constantly in conditioned phenomena, things that arise from causes and conditions. For example, the tiny particles that make up our bodies and all other material things are always changing, not remaining the same from one moment to the next. It is precisely because of these momentary changes that our body and other physical phenomena age and eventually die or go out of existence. So everything's changing. Our bodies, this building we're in, computers we're looking at, it's not obvious, right, that this HP computer is changing, but it is. And things in our body. Coarse impermanence is thus contingent on subtle impermanence. So we can tell the coarse ones, but that happens because the subtle change is going on all the time. Our minds are also constantly changing each moment. Different mental states, perceptions, thoughts, emotions, memories arise and disappear. Nothing in our mind is permanent, fixed, or always the same. That's a good thing to remember when we're trying to describe ourselves. I'm this kind of person, except when I'm not. Yeah, we get very fixed with a certain perception of ourselves. It is important to understand and become familiar with the subtle, transient nature of our bodies, minds, and all things we perceive around us. Doing so will help us adopt more realistic attitudes about life and death and be less caught up in disturbing emotions such as attachment and hatred. So even attachment doesn't last. It's kind of nice to know. When we think about three fundamental truths, if we recognize them, we're going to find that pretty much all of our afflictive mental emotional states is because we're not in accordance with these three truths. One is that things are changing all the time. And we try to make things permanent that are not permanent, right? We try to make our relationships permanent, try to put that seal around the house, make sure it's permanent, lasts a while. We try to make our jobs permanent, and we're always trying to find stability and instability. And there's a lot of suffering. around trying to make things permanent that are not permanent. Things are changing, and a lot of struggle around that. Our friends change, our relationships change, these bodies change, everything's changing. And we have a tendency to try to get things the way we want them and then bubble wrap them. Let's make this that way. Relationship, and our home, careers, hobbies, our communities. And there's a lot of suffering around that. The other two is that, so it's called the 3 marks of existence. And one mark is that things are changing, things are impermanent, that's just the way things are. The other is that there is nothing outside yourself, no phenomena that can provide you lasting happiness, that all conditioned phenomena not going to give you the happiness that you seek. It's best it can do is transitory, momentary pleasure. People, places, things, events, they will come, they will go, and they are not the source of your lasting happiness and well-being. They cannot provide that. And then the 3rd mark of existence is often called non-self, probably more accurately called not self. Is that there is no independent, self-existent being here. And but it sure feels like it. And I can sure get hung up on that for John. And so not self is a lot of people with non-self, like there is no self, but it's much more that we identify a self, which is not self, right? We identify me and mine, that which is not me and mine. I identify with my body as though that's who I am. I identify with my feelings as though that's who I am. I can give you a whole description of who I am, none of which will be accurate. And so those are these 3 marks of existence. It's just the way things are. And the beauty of these meditations and understandings is we're going to find that our fears, worries, mental afflictions, anger, hatred, all that is generally tied to thinking that things outside ourselves, if they were a certain way, would provide us with this happiness we seek. If it doesn't go that way, terrible. Very caught up in my own sense of self, in a way I don't exist, and or I'm trying to make things permanent that aren't permanent. So I don't know, about a little over 20 years now, I've been trying to find an instant where I had a mental and emotional affliction that wasn't because of one of those 3 misunderstandings. I haven't found it yet. It might be there, I just haven't found it yet. But it's a good thing to check, when we're caught up struggling, and am I trying to think that these things, if they were different, or if they didn't change, or if is it about me in a way I don't exist? Well, I spent a lot of time standing up for my insecurity, trying to defend my ego. So these meditations then are very nice to gain some understanding and then some realization. And then as we have a realization of, for example, impermanence, we may have less attachment to having things stay a certain way. If I have some realization about the true source of my genuine happiness and well-being, I'm not going to be so hung up on having you act a particular way. If I have an understanding, of how I exist, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time reinforcing my insecurity and ego. Instead, I'll free myself from that. And so this meditation on impermanence is going to be very helpful, I think, to really understand the other 2. Because if we start to understand impermanence, you're also going to understand you're not that self that you keep hanging on to. And if you start understanding impermanence, you're also going to realize that those people, places, and things, they're all going to change. And they're nothing that you can put all your faith in. So this really is core, very core. And I think we have time. I'm ambitious. I want to read through the type of the actual kind of things that you look at, the directions for the meditation itself, and then we can talk about it and pop it up. It's, I think it's very clear, really. Okay. So once you are seated, grounded, and you've good posture, you're grounded, then your first direction is focusing your attention on your body. And then be aware that it is not a single indivisible thing, but a collection of many distinct components. Your skin, bones, blood, organs, muscles, and so on. Just taking some time to, recognize that what we see as one solid body has all these components that come together in a particular way. Probably be good to get one of those medical, images things. We'll look inside and see where the kidneys are and lungs and all that stuff. Muscles, ligaments. I get fascinated with the whole nose and sinus thing. That's amazing how that's in there. Yeah, they got a big chart putting together the doctors. Yeah. So, just becoming aware of all these components and all these aspects of just this physical body. And then each of these larger parts is in turn composed of tiny cells that are constantly changing, coming into existence, moving about, reproducing, dying, and disintegrating. So within the body, then, we become aware of these organs, become aware of the components, and then, blood that's moving around, and the cells, and then replication of cells, and, components dying, and all that's happened, and we're not aware of that. We're just sitting. And yet this whole process is going on. And, sometimes as you get older, you realize you don't have hair you used to have. I don't know what happened there. I think it's because I was thinking so much, I kind of rubbed right here. Kind of wore it down. Yeah. So, but there's these things that are changing. Yeah, and then hair starts popping out of other places. Just all kinds of things start happening that didn't used to be. And, but we don't notice that, right? Normally not aware. Our bodies, aging. So just taking a little time first, the bigger parts, a little more subtle than blood, cells, so forth. And then on an even subtler level are molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, each of which is likewise changing constantly. So nothing in this body is, it's all in motion. Although you are sitting still on your meditation seat, your body is anything but still. It is changing every moment. And then stay in that awareness for a while. So first, we really just take a little time to recognize that this stillness that we're experiencing in the body, that there's actually an incredible dynamic movement taking place, giving life. Not to mention, breath and the lungs and everything that is happening. You sort of go, wow, this body's not still, this body's changing, coming to life, ending. Inhale, life, exhale, exhaust. That is no longer there right now. And then you start to recognize, wow, even what appears to be solid and unchanging, this body, this stillness, a lot of movement, a lot of life, a lot of coming, a lot of going, coming into birth, exiting. Then, after a little bit, you turn your attention to your mind. The mind is also composed of parts, thoughts, perceptions, feelings, memories, emotions that arise and vanish like bubbles. Remain for some time observing this stream of experiences as you are standing, as though you are standing on a bridge watching a river floating beneath. Avoid getting involved with any of the mental activity. Just, don't judge, don't make any comments, just observe the stream of thoughts, emotions, memories, imagery. Observe and beware of the impermanent, ever-changing nature of the mind. Yeah, I don't think I've ever done the bridge looking at much more looking upward and the spaciousness of the mind, watching things arise. And that's what I've always been taught, the stream. But also just in the mind, the domain of mind, which is, there's no boundaries. There's the domain of mind, there's no boundaries. They're just, resting and noticing thoughts coming and going, emotions, feelings, images, they're coming, they're going, they pop up and they fade away, they pop up and they fade away. And we'll start noticing that the mind, nothing sedentary about that. There's no boundaries, there's no, it's just vast. And all these aspects coming and going. And you notice that, well, your mind's not permanent that way. And all those things that we think about myself, well, they all come and go and they keep rising in dependence upon situations, experiences. So we start noticing the body's changing, lots of movement, mind, lots of movement. After spending some time observing the subtle impermanence of your body and mind, turn your attention to the outer world. All the things around you are likewise changing every moment. Start with the house or building that you're sitting in. The wood, bricks, concrete, glass, and metal it is made of, as well as the furniture, carpets, and electrical appliances within it. Well, they're composed of particles that do not remain the same from one moment to the next. You cannot see subtle impermanence with your eyes. Things appear still and unmoving, but you can understand it conceptually. Stay focused on that awareness for some time. Allow it to sink deep within. And this is a really good exercise, especially with things that seem very stable, like a house. Like our outer trim needs to be resealed, it's, you do start to notice, wait a minute, it is changing, it looks solid, but yeah, it's changing. You can notice aspects in the house, and if you have carpet, some of the wear, you start to notice, more coarse things that you can notice, and then you recognize that underneath that, within that, particles are changing in movement, and even that house, houses get old, roofs get old, right? You need to change them every so many years. Siding needs to be resurfaced. Things change. I used to, use as an example, we have a big mountain here, Mount Sopris. Looks pretty much, solid. So you start looking a little closer, and then you start noticing the soil changes and plants changing, trees are growing, animals, things are movement, the lakes up there changing, and you start going, wait a minute, even that mountain, there's, wow, quite a bit of change going on all the time, moment to moment to moment. But it looks very solid, like it's this thing. And so, we bring our mind and start noticing, the house I'm in, the building I'm in, the computer I'm using here, right? This actually is fairly new to me. The one over there is older. And believe it or not, older computers wear out and stop working very well. But we don't see those changes. Just after a while, they seem to get a little slower, don't turn on as well, battery fades, need to plug it in, So it's changing. but not very obvious, right? Not very obvious. So now expand your awareness to the surrounding environment, other buildings and houses, roads, cars, trees, hills, mountains, lakes, and rivers, people and animals. Understand that all of these are changing every moment. Get a sense that everything in the world around us and the world itself is constantly changing, not remaining the same from one moment to the next. Concentrate on this experience as long as you can. So we really start inwardly with the body and the mind and our current environment, then we expand to the outer environment and see if you can find anything that's not changing moment to moment to moment. Generally, probably won't find it. And then with this realization, ultimately, you'd probably come up with this conclusion: since all conditioned things are impermanent and subject to change, it's unrealistic to be attached to attractive things, hoping they will remain forever. It also makes no sense to be despondent about problems as if they will never go away. Resolve to stay mindful of the impermanent nature of things and use this understanding as a remedy to disturbing emotions. And so here you can start to see, just with impermanence, it's going to address the other two marks of existence. The sense of self as this independent thing. I find I'm interdependent and changing moment to moment. And my tendency to find my stable happiness in my things, my job, my career, people, place, and things, they're all changing. And I can't put my faith in that. And then we don't get overly attached in an unhealthy way, and we can appreciate our current situation, the environment we're living in, the fact I can use this computer because it is working now, and the people in my life while they're in my life, because they may not be here tomorrow, or I might not be here tomorrow. The fact that I can walk and talk right now, because I may not always be able to walk and talk. One of the really wonderful teachings with Thich Nhat Hanh is, the non-toothache. Right now, I don't have a toothache. That's pretty cool. When you have a toothache, it's painful, and then you get relief, and then you're really grateful for the relief. Right now, we have the relief from a toothache, but we don't care. But what would it be like to maintain? Right now, I don't have a toothache. Pretty cool. Right now, we're free from a lot of suffering, but we're not aware of that or thinking about it. We're only aware of it when we're suffering. And then the moment we get the relief, we're very thrilled, grateful. But we're in that relief right now from many ailments that we're not really thinking about. So recognizing moment to moment a deep appreciation for the relief we have, the support we have, the environment we're in, the conditions to be able to walk, to read, to see, to be nourished, to be healthy, to be well, to have a meaningful life, to cultivate an understanding and virtue about the life that you're living and how to participate in it in ways that are truly meaningful, in ways that are more accurate. All this can really arise just from understanding this subtle impermanence that's taking place all the time. And we get to change. I can become a better human being. It's pretty cool. I'm going to start working on that tomorrow. I hear it could happen. And, you start practicing. And so, we can get really stuck with the labels that we get caught up in with ourselves. I'm this kind of person. I have these kinds of tendencies. These are the issues. These are my mental afflictions. And except they're not always present, any of them, whatever label we stick on. And then there's am I really that ailment when I'm actually doing well and being healthy? Am I selfish when I'm being generous? Am I caught up in attention deficit disorder when I'm paying attention? Am I suffering from PTSD when I'm feeling comfortable and happy, safe? Am I, we stick a lot of labels on our traumas and our limitations, and as though that's who we are, except when we're not. We forget there's a lot of times we're not. And we're not always that. And we're changing moment to moment. And we can actually be actively participating in the becoming. It's pretty free. Downside is you can't be an active participant in your partner's becoming all the time. Yeah, they're in charge of theirs. So you get to, or your kids. I mean, that's probably a better example, right? Everybody wants their kids to be this way or that way. Oh, why didn't they listen? So we can loosen those attachments around that and understand that they're changing, and then we can really appreciate the non-suffering we have, the incredible moments of non-suffering, of connection, of well-being, and while we have it, because we won't always necessarily have it. So this is just such a profound meditation that can unlock so much wisdom in our lives and alleviate a lot of that grasping to that comes so naturally to us. So I'm going to pause there, check in, see if anyone has any thoughts, comments, questions. That wasn't so ambitious. We actually got through that whole thing there. Yeah. Yeah, well, you know me, I can do a paragraph and make that last 3 hours. But yeah. Chris.
All right, thank you, John. So I've been, Keith was talking about, Kurt and Keith were talking about, the Zen of or the Dharma and pickleball. I was riding up the chairlift the other day, and it was a powder day, and noticing just like how excited and attached I was to skiing down the next run, and to the point it was like, it was very pleasurable because I knew unless the chairlift was going to stop, it was going to be very thrilling. But I was noticing that, like sometimes we talk about attachment in terms of negative qualities or aversion, but the I was really enjoying the anticipation and trying to put it in check. And I think what you just talked about, the impermanence of all things, you talked about the impermanence of the non-toothache. And I guess it's like tempering the giddiness that comes from the kid who's about to get the ice cream cone, or that marshmallow experiment where if you delay one marshmallow, you wait, you get two marshmallows.
Yeah, I never did win that one. Yeah.
Well, I don't even like marshmallows, so but anyway, so I was just wondering, like commenting on like tempering that anticipation of something that's going to be really good, or can I just kind of ride that out, and with the kind of the footnote of knowing that attaching to things that are just so that the expectation, like, can I enjoy the expectation? Can I have my cake and eat it too on this, the macro question of
Yeah,
expectation?
I get what you're going. I get it. And, technically, it's a funny saying, have your cake and eat it too. That's why you have cake. But it was actually phrased originally, I want to eat my cake and have it too, right? And that's kind of I had some English major taught me that once. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I want to eat my cake and still have it. But if you have cake, I think you should eat it in moderation. Having said that, totally, so you're talking about motivation, the joy of anticipation, allowing yourself to feel good about something, you're looking forward to. And those are such wonderful elements of being in this human form and the life that we get to do, that, we can really take delight in setting up the conditions for something that could be quite fun. And as you said, right at the end there is with a caveat, right? The caveat is that gondola may not make it up the top of the hill, right? Now, over the weekend, did you see that one that fell?
Yeah, I did see that one, but I was noticing it's like how giddy I was, and then like seeming like, okay, this seems like a little bit like I'm having too much
Right.
expectation about this,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, it was almost like a little bit like I was reflecting on it, like this is a little bit out of whack.
Yeah, beyond the equanimity phase
Yeah,
there.
definitely beyond the acronym.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in those moments, I don't think I would try to necessarily tamp it down, or I would just notice it, which is what I think you did, right? You just notice it. Like, wow, this is getting, it might be a little bit out of control, but it's feeling really good. And just monitor, and allow without trying to tap it down.
Just on the footnote of that, or the epilogue, was that like an hour later I was on a chairlift and it stopped for like 45 minutes. And so then I got this notice my frustration of being
Yeah,
stuck on this chairlift.
right. And what I generally try to do when I notice that, that build up, is try to appreciate the moment I'm in, you know, and because, that's what actually exists, and all the other is the build up, and it kind of balances that with, hey, look at the day I'm at. I'm got my little ski pants on, and it's outdoors, it's beautiful looking day, and just starting to cultivate more of a contentment for where I am at currently. And then that'll balance the expectation of, what happens later. And still having an appreciation for what's potentially coming. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's interesting to it was interesting to observe my thoughts with both that expectation and the skiing, and then also being stuck on the chairlift and just noticing, my attachment to not being stuck on the chairlift.
Yeah,
Or
pretty cool. It didn't fall too, right?
no, it didn't fall. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, that one that fell was only like 15 feet in the air, and I don't think anyone got injured.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. That was just a couple days ago, right? Was it yesterday or day before? Oh, okay. Yeah, it was, no, I think it was in Canada. Yeah. But yeah, it was about 15 feet. It was one of those big gondola, and it fell. Yeah. And then everybody else who was up on the other ones, had to get rescued. Yeah. So, but yeah, and basically, before I get to the next person, is the real thing to notice is that you noticed all this and observed and was aware. And that is the actual wisdom. Observing the excitement, observing the frustration. And along with that, you start to, you're going to start a more equanimous realization.
Yeah, I noticed that in itself was kind of brought me back down into a place of more calm reflection, noticing the noticing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was wonderful. What a great example. Is it Kurt?
Yep, it's me. I have that's probably the same answer, but I'm not sure about if it's the same answer or not. You guys, I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell this story, but you guys all know far more about me than you want to, I'm sure. So anyway, I was driving back from taking an AA meeting into the jail last night. Super positive thing to do. I feel really good about it. It brings me a lot of contentment and I get to congratulate, pat myself on the back for doing good things. It's a 30-mile drive home. I have to drive by a Dairy Queen. And the moment I left the jail, I was telling myself, I'm not going to stop and have a blizzard. And it was 15 miles away. And then as I was buying the blizzard, I was still telling myself I'm not going to have the blizzard. As I was eating it, I was telling myself, don't eat anymore. Throw it out the window, or if I can't litter. So stop eating it. Ate the entire thing, felt crappy about it. It's not living into my values. It's not what I want to do. And yet I do it anyway. Right. And it's super interesting to me. I think the thing that I've noticed about, like Craig noticing the joy, right. And that is that noticing this is happening and like, what in the heck is going on here? Right. It's not furthering my values. I don't want to do it. It feels incredibly habitual. Right. And yet it's like, I mean, powerless in a way that is just slightly scary. Right. And I keep expecting Buddhism to fix that in me. It doesn't appear to be happening. Maybe it's my application of it, or maybe I don't know what it is. But if you have any suggestions, that would be awesome. And I am noticing it, and I'm slightly laughing at myself, although it's disgusting too. I mean, anyway.
I can so relate.
So can I. So yeah, you are not alone. The struggle is real.
What's the steps around it?
Thanks, Larry. That's super helpful.
Yeah. And here's the reality, though. What's the wisdom you're getting out of this? And the wisdom, which I think you're hinting at, is a profound awareness of the depth of the habitual conditioning and formatting that we have, right? And that reward system. And that's awesome. Like we didn't even know all that before. And we can see where the conditioning, the reward mechanism, dopamine, all those things come together. And so loosening that and rewiring and resetting takes time. And so it starts normally with the bigger things that are more concrete, that are going to cause a lot of pain, right? So alcoholics stop drinking. Okay, causing that. Okay, ice cream doesn't, it's a lot more subtle, right? And so it's not causing immediate pain. So that mind's still working with, the desire, the reward, and there's no immediate harm, right? That's tangible. It's more gradual. And so what's happened though is if you look at your life, you have gradually let go of more and more things that were harmful. And what the mechanism, the actual truth to being able to not have any of those issues is directly shamatha practice. I mean, if we get through levels 3, 4, you're just not going to give in impulses. You're going to have a lot more free will. And that takes time to have that practice. In the interim, I think the most productive thing is to reset your reward system. And we do not give ourselves the reward for the good we do. We don't give ourselves a reward for the resistance we have. We don't even give ourselves reward for trying to resist the ice cream I'm eating, right? We're beating ourselves up for doing it rather than recognizing with awareness that my body's doing this without my consent, which is actually growth. And I know that now. And, but what I've noticed when I have those strong impulses and I resist and I choose to resist or do something different, that's the time for the pat on the back. This is good. This, allow that reward to kick in and feel good. It's kind of like when people do physical workouts, they got a chart, and they, they're working out. It hurts. It sucks. They check off, I did these reps today. And then, there's a reward. And so with the daily check-ins and things, the times that we resist, the times we didn't go to Dairy Queen, the times that we did these other things, we really want to feel good about the good that you're doing. And then what happens is you're cultivating a different reward mechanism that allows you to feel good instead of just always fighting an impulse to feel good. You're creating a different reward circuitry. And that needs to be active. And so generally the advice is to pick, instead of everything, we pick one thing. What's the biggest affliction in my life right now? It's caused me the most harm. Nail that. Okay. That's my priority. I'm aware of it. I'm going to work on that. I pacify that. Then what's the next thing? So Dairy Queen might be a little further down your list than some of the other things. But don't sit there and think, as I'm working on this, I'm going to be able to overcome everything else. It's much more of let's work with the biggest things first, build up these alternate reward mechanisms as I resist unwholesome behavior. And as that develops, it'll become a muscle to work on the more subtle things. Yeah. Good, Kurt. Awesome. All right, Chris. And yeah, we're going to wrap up on this one.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I think we kind of this Puritan ethic too. I mean, what's wrong, with having a Dairy Queen Blizzard? Maybe you don't get the extra large. Maybe, I think it's okay to reward ourselves from time to time. I did a good thing, and maybe that's part of the. Just a quick story. I remember my when I was a child, my mom was having root canals done, and every time after the root canal, we'd stop at Dairy Queen, and so it's like a positive thing for me sitting patiently. So I think it's okay to have, maybe don't get the extra large that's 1,500 calories, but I think honoring mindfully, okay, well, I did a good thing. Now I don't know. That's just a thought. It's okay to mindfully say, hey, I'm going to mindfully indulge in, whatever your cherry pie or your blizzard or whatever it is, chocolate chip cookies or,
yeah. And, everything's relative. If you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to not eat Dairy Queen, then it might be an issue. But if you once in a while dabble, yeah, always having that balance. But I think what I'm hearing more, and I think I want to make the key point, is that we really always want to be a nurturing friend to ourselves. So even if we are doing something that, ideally we'd rather not be doing, generally, to know that you're okay. And we're doing the best we can. It's okay to then, at least if you're going to indulge, enjoy it and not beat yourself up for it. Holly. Okay, we'll get one more in here.
Just a quick thought as I'm sitting here watching my mind and the thoughts come and go, arise and disappear. But what would life be like if everything was permanent, everything was fixed? I just was thinking, if I was 29 years old and if I had that body, that'd be great, but my circumstances were certainly not optimal. And I think I wouldn't have the grace of being older and growing into old age and learning so much more. I mean, wouldn't life be really boring if everything was permanent? I don't know. Just a thought. Thanks.
Yeah, just watch that movie Groundhog Day. You'll see it. It's hell, actually. Everything's the same, hasn't changed. Yeah. Yeah, what's that? George Sands, maybe is the quote is, no, maybe it's not him, somebody else is to appreciate all the seasons is so much more rewarding than to forever be in love with just spring, right? And what a great unfolding as we get to grow. And the other beauty of what you're sharing is we're always becoming, and that's the beautiful next adventure of becoming, and what we get to learn, what we get to who do we get to meet next in our lives, and how do we use this wisely. So yeah, it's really quite liberating, but we also then need to monitor our minds around where we get stuck with trying to preserve something, right? And but if we can be free of that, and we're empowered, it's free and it's liberating, it's wonderful. I think I'm a much riper person today in many ways, and healthy ways, than I once was. I'm very grateful for that, as you're pointing out, Holly. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I'm a wonderful group. All right, well, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit and wisdom that we have cultivated here today in this practice of impermanence, and I invite everyone through the week to bring this practice into your life, start noticing it and appreciating that constant state of becoming, of new opportunities, of learning, of growth, yeah, of all the places we will go as we continue to grow. And let us dedicate any and all merit from our time together, from the love and care that we show for each other and with each other, to inspire each other, cultivate genuine happiness and well-being, to overcome afflictions and habits and conditioning that limit our ability to clearly see ourselves and our experience. And may we use this wisdom to liberate ourselves, to engage in compassion, loving kindness, and wisdom for ourselves and others. May all beings be free of suffering, and may we continue in this path, be of greatest benefit to all. Let us dedicate. By this merit,
may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings.
May the
precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Oh,